The high heel is the world's most recognizable symbol of femininity. It wasn't designed for fashion, for women, or even for walking. It was designed for war. 9th century Persian cavalrymen wore raised heels to lock their feet into stirrups and fire arrows at full gallop. A soldier's tool became a king's badge of power, then crossed a gender line it would never cross back. And to understand how, you have to start on the battlefield. A 9th century ceramic bowl from Nishapur, known as the Dish with Rider, preserves the earliest evidence of this design. Painted during the Samanid period, the artifact depicts a mounted warrior wearing boots with a distinct raised step at the heel. This was the galesh. It was not a fashion statement, but a critical piece of military hardware. According to shoe curator Elizabeth Semmelhack, the heel functioned as a physical brake. By catching against the flat bar of a stirrup, it created a rear stop. This anchor allowed a soldier to rise, brace his weight, and release a composite bow with deadly accuracy at full gallop. While some modern equestrian analyses question the absolute mechanical necessity of this design, Seljuk-era military boots show this raised structure persisted for centuries. No single inventor created the heel, and its origin remains collective and functional. Long before it was sculpted for elegance, the heel was a brutal, pragmatic solution to the chaos of mounted combat. In 1999, the Safavid ruler Shah Abbas the Great sought European military alliances against their shared rival, the Ottoman Empire. He dispatched a grand diplomatic mission, led by Ambassador Hussein Ali Beg, on a 3-year journey across the continent. The envoys traveled through Russia, the Holy Roman Empire, Italy, and Spain, presenting a striking spectacle at every court they entered. European aristocrats, accustomed to flat footwear, were suddenly exposed to the sophisticated riding gear, rich textiles, and weapons of the Persian military. They were transfixed by the majestic posture of these foreign horsemen. European elites viewed the raised heel as an exotic badge of martial power. Wearing heeled boots became a way for noblemen to borrow the raw, hyper-masculine mystique of the legendary Eastern cavalry, converting a practical riding tool into a dramatic fashion statement. Rather than a single gifted boot sparking a revolution, this was a sweeping wave of cultural envy that permanently altered the silhouette of the European elite. The heel had successfully conquered the Western aristocracy, transforming from battlefield equipment into a prestigious courtly accessory. And then, a short, vain king made the heel his own. Once the heel arrived in European courts, its military purpose vanished, replaced by a theater of social status. Between 1600 and 1750, aristocrats abandoned the horse but kept the heel, using it to show they had no need to walk. A high, unstable shoe became the ultimate declaration of privilege. If a gentleman struggled to stand on wet cobblestones, it was not a design flaw. It was proof that he was exempt from manual labor and outdoor toil. This footwear spoke of wealth, leisure, and a refined, dangerous masculinity. In courtly circles, discomfort was a luxury. The more impractical the shoe, the more power it projected, turning a soldier's tool into an instrument of social dominance. A nobleman in towering heels was visibly lifted above the working class, his posture declaring his freedom from the muddy reality of the streets. Height became a direct measure of rank, shaping courtly gatherings into a tense competition of stature and masculine peacockery. And then, a short, vain king made the heel his own. Louis XIV of France, who ruled from 1643 to 1715, stood at roughly 5 feet 4 inches. To project an image of imposing majesty, the French monarch adopted towering heels that physically raised his stature, making political hierarchy visible before anyone spoke a word. In his famous 1701 portrait painted by Hyacinthe Rigaud, the aging king poses with a heavily draped robe parted to reveal legs clad in white stockings, terminating in shoes with thick, bright red heels and matching soles. These red-soled shoes quickly became a recognizable part of his royal image. The vibrant color, produced using expensive vermilion pigment, served as a direct visual marker of wealth, nobility, and status at the top of French society. Popular lore often claims the king issued a strict decree reserving red heels exclusively for courtiers he personally favored, turning the shoes into a literal currency of royal approval. However, historical records tell a more measured story. Surviving documents do not establish the existence of any such formal primary decree. Instead, the red heel functioned as an unspoken cultural shorthand. To wear them was to signal proximity to power, a way for noblemen to participate in the sovereign's theater of grandeur. Long before the heel became a feminine fashion staple, it served as a weapon of statecraft, a physical manifestation of absolute power painted in royal crimson. In the late 17th century, European court culture transformed the heel from a royal whim into a collective performance. Across grand palaces, noblemen treated footwear as a direct visual scale of importance. Courtiers desperately sought to raise their status by raising their shoes. While popular myth claims height was strictly regulated by rank, no surviving primary records prove a universal ranking system existed. Instead, the court became a theater of masculine peacockery, a silent, absurd contest of power fought through increasingly unstable footwear. Wealthy men tottered through marble halls, willing to risk their balance just to tower over their rivals by a few extra inches. The heel had become the ultimate symbol of elite male dominance, physical proof of wealth, and exemption from labor. But as this fashion reached its peak of impracticality, an unexpected question arose. Could this ultimate badge of masculine power cross gender lines? Long before European women wore heels, they wore chopines. From the 15th through the 17th centuries, elite women in Italy and Spain stood atop these towering wooden and cork platforms, which could reach heights of up to 20 inches. Originally designed as practical overshoes to keep expensive hems out of muddy streets, chopines quickly mutated into extreme symbols of wealth. They required maids to help the wearer balance, signaling a lifestyle of complete leisure. Yet these massive blocks were structurally flat, entirely distinct from the functional, sloped heel of the Persian riding boot. By the 1630s, the visual landscape of European courts began to blur. Women started adopting traditionally masculine elements of dress, cutting their hair short, wearing epaulettes, and putting on heeled shoes. This was not a direct copy of the Persian cavalry boot, but rather a broad cultural convergence. Women recognized that the heel was the ultimate visual currency of power and authority, and they wanted in on the display. For a brief, unstable period, both sexes shared the high heel, transforming the court into a unified arena of towering, precarious status. By the middle of the 18th century, the shared arena of courtly display began to fracture under the weight of a new intellectual movement. Enlightenment thinkers began to champion reason, practicality, and restraint over the theatrical excesses of the aristocracy. This philosophical shift demanded a radical reassessment of what it meant to look like a man of authority. Wealthy men began discarding the flamboyant uniform of the old elite, stripping away the towering wigs, bright cosmetics, heavy jewelry, and colorful silks that had defined power for generations. Wool and linen replaced silk and velvet, while plain breeches replaced heavily embroidered coats. In their place came a new aesthetic of sober, dark fabrics and utilitarian cuts designed for active public lives. This long rejection of decorative male display became known as the Great Male Renunciation. No single event caused this sudden retreat from decorative display. Instead, a convergence of cultural forces reshaped the European wardrobe. Rising bourgeois values equated commercial respectability with unadorned simplicity. Neoclassical taste favored clean, understated lines inspired by antiquity, while the explosive violence of the French Revolution made any visual association with aristocratic excess look deeply dangerous. The high heel, which had spent nearly 2 centuries signaling military dominance and royal favor, was suddenly recast as a frivolous, irrational indulgence. Men's heels did not immediately disappear from the physical world, but they lost their social usefulness. In an era that prized rational action and physical mobility, a shoe that made walking difficult was no longer a sign of high status. It was a sign of foolishness. By choosing flat, sturdy leather boots, men voluntarily withdrew from the century-old game of competitive height. They abandoned the old display system entirely, leaving the high heel behind as an impractical, decorative relic. By the 19th century, the high heel was thoroughly marooned on the feminine side of the wardrobe. Deprived of its historical association with horse archers and absolute monarchs, the shoe's physical instability was rapidly reinterpreted. No longer a sign of elite male status, the raised pitch was now cast as an expression of female delicacy and decorative display. Over the succeeding decades, cultural forces stabilized this connection, cementing the heel as the world's most recognizable symbol of femininity and glamour. This gendered coding was entirely assigned by society rather than being an inherent property of the footwear. Yet because modern observers only encounter the shoe long after this cultural pivot, its long masculine heritage has vanished from public memory. We look at a modern heel and see only a woman's fashion statement, unaware of the dramatic reversal that took place. The true path of the heel is a striking four-stage evolution. It began as rugged Persian cavalry equipment, transformed into a soaring European male fashion statement, briefly became a shared court accessory worn by both sexes, and ultimately settled into its modern role as a feminine symbol. Objects do not hold fixed meanings. They receive them from the societies that wear them. The very shoe, now synonymous with female elegance, was originally engineered for battle-hardened soldiers and worn by kings to flaunt their absolute power. Today, we see the heel as a symbol of elegance, blind to its history as a tool of raw power. It is a reminder that the wardrobe is a shifting map of social control. The meanings we wear are never permanent. What do you think we are redefining next? Let us know in the comments.